There are a ton of smart locks out there on the market that all pretty much do the same thing. This smart lock unlocks by just walking up to the door. No keys, no fingerprint, no key code. You just simply walk up to the door, and by the time you get to the door and put your hand on the doorknob, it's unlocked and ready to open. This is the Aqara U400 Smart Lock, and while it does have the same features as most other locks, it has a really cool feature that others do not. It uses UWB, which is an ultra wideband chip. It allows it to communicate with your Apple HomeKit on your iPhone or Apple Watch and unlock your door by just walking up to it. In this video, we'll be covering the installation of the lock, talk more about the UWB in conjunction with the Apple HomeKit, go through some of the other features of the smart lock, and then I'll share my final thoughts at the very end. So the installation is pretty easy and straightforward. We'll walk you through how to do this on this video, but just know that you can hire someone professionally to do this. To remove the old lock, you'll have to remove the 2 screws that are inside the door. I have already done that because I already had a previous smart lock on, but usually on the inside lock or inside deadbolt, there are 2 screws. You unscrew those. Once you unscrew those, then you're going to be able to remove the back half and the front half of the lock from the door away from the deadbolt. Then what you'll have left is the 2 screws for the deadbolt, which is on the side of the door. Once you remove those 2 screws, then you will be able to slide the deadbolt out from the door. Sometimes it's a little stuck, so you're gonna have to give it a little bit of force, but it will slide out. Now you're ready to install the new lock. So now you're gonna get the new deadbolt, and the deadbolt has a label called top on it, and that is the top. So you want that on the upper side. You will slide the lock in with top on the top, and then use the 2 screws to screw the deadbolt into the door frame. Once this is tight, you're ready to slide in the front half of the lock. This is the side that has the keypad. So you have a flat metal piece, and that's the locking mechanism. It has a little nub on the end, and that goes only one way through the deadbolt. So you'll slide that through the deadbolt. While you do that, you're going to also slide the wires underneath the deadbolt. It should slide in with ease. You'll slide it in until the lock is flush with the door. Once the lock is flush with the door, then you have to go into the inside where you have a small bracket. It also has a top written on the top. You'll make sure that's on the top. And then you'll take 2 bolts that you'll slide through the inside bracket, through the deadbolt, and screw it into the front of the lock. The 2 different screws, there's 2 different lengths. Normally, most doors are the small screw lengths, the shorter ones. They do have longer ones if your door is thicker. I use the small ones, and I have a normal sized door. So once you screw these in, don't screw them up too tight, but get them just a little bit snug. So that way you can make sure that the front of the door lock is plumb and level, as well as the bracket on the back side. Once you can confirm that they're plumb and level, then you tighten those down the rest of the way. Once that's tight and ready to go, now you're ready to install the back half of the lock. Now they have 2 very small black screws that you'll need to get because you're gonna have to use those to screw the back half onto the bracket. And it takes a number 2 screwdriver. I use a small little like sunglasses or glasses screwdriver. It made it a little bit easier for me. Now we need to connect those 2 wires. There's 2 wires. These 2 wires should have gone through the actual inside mounting bracket, as you see here. And once you've done that, you need to connect it into the inside lock half. And the rectangle connector will go in until it clicks. And then there's a round connector that you'll push on firmly all the way to, I think it clicks as well. But make sure that there's a little channel for the wire to go along. Make sure it's run along that for the circle one. And then you're going to shove that wire as much as you can into the door lock function or the deadbolt area. So that way you're not pinching it, and slide the lock onto the actual mounting bracket. Once you get on the mounting bracket, you can put in those 2 screws, the 2 small ones, screw those in tight, and now you're ready to install the battery. The nice thing about this battery is it's rechargeable and it lasts up to 6 months. And you recharge it with a USB-C, which is really nice. Pairing it up with the app is pretty easy. You have to scan the barcode on the inside of the lock. There are 2 barcodes, one for Apple HomeKit, and then there's one for the Aqara app. You'll use the one for the Aqara app to pair that. Once you're ready for the HomeKit, you will pair it with the HomeKit using the HomeKit QR code. So let's talk more about the UWB chip in the Aqara U400. UWB stands for ultra wideband. Now, I did mention this lock will work by itself by just walking up to the door with your iPhone or Apple Watch. I know you have a ton of questions about this because I know I did. Trust me, it's secure and it's safe, even though it may not seem that way. A few questions that I had, which you probably have as well, is, well, what if I was walking by the door? Will it unlock? I don't want it to unlock if I'm just walking by the door. What if I'm inside and I'm walking up to the door to see who is there? I don't want it to unlock while I'm inside. Maybe it's someone I don't want to let in. Well, just so you know, it will not unlock doing those things. The ultra wideband chip is super smart. It measures how far away your phone is and the direction it's coming from. It uses time of flight and time arrival to get these things taken care of. So it knows if you're inside the door, and it won't unlock by just walking up to the door. It also knows if you're walking up to the door or just walking by. So if you're walking up to the door and you want to actually open up, and your intent is to open up the door, it knows that by the time of flight, as well as how close you are to the door and what your intent is. Now, if you're just walking by the front door on the outside, it knows you're walking by and you're not going up to the lock. So it's not going to unlock while you walk by, and it triggers it to unlock. Hopefully that answers your questions on whatever you had about this. It's pretty secure. You literally have to intent on walking up to the door to open the door itself for it to unlock. And by doing that, you would think there might be a lag in there that's annoying, but in reality, there is no lag. Now, in addition to the UWB chip unlocking the door for the HomeKey, so that way you don't have to pull your phone out or your iPhone or your Apple Watch, but you can use HomeKey by pulling out your phone or your Apple Watch and putting it up against the door, and it will unlock using HomeKey. Now, I always say that's the old school way of HomeKey, but even that feature isn't technically old school. The really nice thing about this is you can even share this HomeKey with people in your house and even with guests. So you can give this instant access to somebody that has an iPhone or an Apple Watch to come in at any time. You can also schedule it so that they can only use the HomeKey certain days or certain times. Like maybe you have someone that cleans your house, or maybe you have a dog walker, or maybe you have someone that needs access only for certain days and you don't want them to come in different times. You can give them a HomeKey and allow that HomeKey to only work on those certain times. Now, we did mention the Apple iPhone and Apple Watch using the UWB chip, but sometime soon you'll be able to use this feature for your Android phone. If you currently don't have an iPhone, Apple Watch that's new enough for the HomeKey, I said Apple, iPhone, and Apple Watch at the same time. If you don't have one of those that's not new enough for HomeKey, or if you don't have an Android phone that currently can't use HomeKey, you still have other ways to unlock this lock. There are many different ways that can unlock this lock, and starting with, you can have an NFC tag. I don't currently have one to show you, but it's like a half size of a credit card, and all you would do is walk up and kind of just put it up against the lock itself. Kind of like if you're at an office and you have that little chip card, and you go up to the lock, it will unlock for you. You can also use a code by setting up user and specific codes. You can set up a one-time burn after use code, or you can set up whatever works on a schedule for house cleaner, dog walker, you name it. You can use a fingerprint, physical keys, unlock through the app, and of course you can use Siri, Alexa, and Google Assistant. It's also important to remember that the HomeKey, door code, fingerprint can all be set up on a schedule if need be for certain people. So we talked about a bunch of different ways to unlock the door, but what about locking it? Well, the Aqara U400 has a built-in gyroscope that knows if the door is open or closed. You can set up an auto lock function to automatically lock your door when the door gets closed. You can also set up a time frame, so that way it doesn't instantly lock on you, but when the door closes, it will lock after 5 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, whatever it is. This is super nice. Anytime my front door is closed, it probably should be locked. So instead of my kid walking out the door and shutting it and having to remember to lock it, it will automatically lock for them. But say you're like me and you are forgetful and you unlock the door, and then you go and do something else and forget that you unlocked the door. Well, there is an auto relock of the door when it's not opened. That is a good function to have. So if after a minute the door doesn't open after it's been unlocked, it will automatically lock it. Or you can set up a different time frame, which is super nice. Another nice thing about Aqara is it's deeply integrated with smart home capabilities. It has Matter and Thread protocols, so devices from different smart home ecosystems can work together seamlessly with it. This will help handle automations based on unlock or even when it's locked. So technically you could base an automation off of unlocking the door and turning on your lights if it's after a certain time period. The lock has an IP65 weatherproof rating, which is great because half of it's outside in the elements, and it has a rechargeable battery with a USB-C port for recharging. Say that the door locks. Say you ignore the lock is dying, you need to recharge it, and you forget to unlock the lock or recharge the battery. And you come home and the lock is dead. There is a USB-C port on the very bottom of it on the outside. All you got to do is hook up a USB-C cable to a battery bank, and it will power this lock just enough for you to either use your home key or code or whatever you need to unlock this lock if you don't have the keys. The keys will work no matter what. Here are my final thoughts. I have to admit that I had an old Schlage lock. It was Z-Wave based. It was on our door for about 10 years. All it had was a door code or a physical key. I finally decided to upgrade when I found out the Aqara U400 uses the UWB chip, and I saw how nice it is to have. And I had to take advantage of HomeKey. I was just thinking, I hope someone comes out with something for like a garage door keypad. It would be nice to be able to watch up to a garage door keypad and HomeKey recognizes it with a UWB chip and opens your garage door. That would be cool. So Aqara, if you're listening to this, maybe you think about doing something like that? I don't know. That would be really cool. I like the sleek, modern design and satin finish of the lock, and the fact that when I put my fingers on the fingerprint reader or on the keys, it doesn't make smudges or leave behind fingerprints. The capability to send home keys on the fly, even to restrict access by day, time, is a peace of mind. Installation and setting up this lock on my phone is super quick and easy. I finally have a smart lock to tie me over for the next 10 years. Maybe. We'll see. Maybe Aqara comes out with something better in a few years. If you found this video helpful, please leave me a like and feel free to ask any questions down in the comment section below. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing for more tech reviews, home automation, home and automotive how-to videos. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.